Okay, good deal. Here we are. It is a third Thursday training for Newcastle Presbytery, and this is a special opportunity. We are on the road in Crisfield, Maryland, and we are here to do a site visit and learn more about the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Project, how they are raising houses and helping rebuild a community that continues to be devastated by sunny day flooding now following massive storms over the last several years. So I am going to turn my camera around for you. That's the plan. That's the plan. I can do it, except I can't see anything. So you can see what I'm looking at. Here we go. Here we go. Turning the camera around. There you go. So we are here at the base camp for volunteers, which I learned used to be uh, American Legion post. And you'll see here the Mennonite Disaster Service trailer. The Mennonites are very active in this work. And so this base camp serves as the place for volunteers to gather when they're here doing this amazing work. And I'm gonna head inside. It's been closed up for the summer because I'll tell you right now, it's hot. It's hot here, my friends. It's hot. And we got a group gathered inside. Here we go. Coming to the door. You see again, Mennonite Disaster Service. And inside the space, they've got a kitchen. They've got some bathrooms back down the hallway. And here is our group that is gathered for the day. They've been chatting while I've been outside. So we are on Zoom. We're live on Zoom and recording. So say hello. We've got a couple folks on Zoom, including adding to our folks who are here. Yeah, so the plan today, I'll turn around real fast. The plan today is we're going to get a little bit of an overview and then go on a drive. So sorry in advance for motion sickness. Take your Pepto-Bismol now. You've got about 20, 30 minutes for it to kick in. But we're going to go on a drive and see. We're going to see houses that need to be raised, houses that have been raised, and all the houses that have been touched through recovery efforts here in Crisfield. So thank you for joining us. We're going to start with introductions. I already told you who I am for those online, and I've already introduced myself to everybody in this room. So we're going to start with introductions and then jump into our overview. So Kim, I'm going to leave you for last so you and Phil can bring us in.
Oh, Doug West from Presbyterian Church of Chesapeake.
Woo woo.
Debbie Lawrence from Anoka Presbyterian Church.
Woo.
Kirk Dawson, Rehoboth.
Yay.
Maryland.
Yay. Yeah, that one.
I'm Anthony, treasurer of Presbyterian.
Woohoo.
Tracy Keenan, your missional presbyter.
Yes.
Hi, Tim Mayer. I'm the driver.
And connected with Tracy.
Hopkins. I am the program manager, the disaster recovery program manager for the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Committee.
And that deserves a round of applause because the program manager is the keystone, the linchpin. It keeps everything going. And we will be joined by Pastor Phil here in just a second. Making the grand entrance.
All right.
And if you'll introduce yourself for our folks here and on Zoom.
So I'm Phil Huber. I serve as the disaster response coordinator for Maryland and Delaware for Lutheran Disaster Response. I also chair Maryland VOAD. And if you don't know what VOAD, I'll explain that to you. And I serve as the coordinator of agencies and supervisor of staff for the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Committee. So part of describing those three hats talks about how integrated things are in a long-term recovery, where Maryland VOAD was, I was one of the people representing Maryland VOAD back in 2012 after Superstorm Sandy. And we were called in by the community, that the community knew to ask for us because of our relationship with the staff of the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. And they said to the community, you're going to need a long-term recovery.
Mm.
You need to call Phil Hubert, Maryland VOAD, so that you get some help in figuring out how to do that. And so whenever you're invited into the community, it's always much easier than having to fight your way in and to gain your own credentialing and all. So that's how the relationship down here began. And then Maryland VOAD used its resources in not only standing up and helping the community create a process to create that long-term recovery, but then we also used our connections to all of our national VOAD members to begin getting funding. So the VOAD community brought in actual cash, $5.5 million after Sandy.
Wow.
And when you count the value of the volunteer labor, we contributed over $12.5 million here in the community following Sandy. The long-term recovery officially began somewhere towards the end of December, 1st of January of 2012-13, and then continued until the end of September of 2015. So approximately 3 years. And I would say that that's probably one of the shorter long-term recoveries that I've experienced. What most in the nation don't understand, most think if you ask them, how do communities get to recovery after a major disaster, they would all respond FEMA. And FEMA simply does not get communities to recovery. They may be helpful in the initial emergency phase, getting resources in, and then they will, if there is a federal declaration, they will then provide certain amount of monies to individuals to help them to recovery. But at a national VOAD conference last year, one of our FEMA officials was presenting, and he gave a rather astounding figure, I thought. He said, and I forget the actual dates, but over the past 10 years, what he said, do you think is the average check that FEMA has cut for individuals who have experienced a disaster? And the check amount was a little over $2,000.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Now you can receive up to $33,000 now, but not everybody qualifies for that. So if that's the money people have to work with, their recovery is going to be quite short of what they actually need. And so then the long-term recovery committee acts as, I like to talk about us as being a gap funding agency. Through our disaster case management, construction management, volunteer management, we look at what it's going to take to get that family to recovery. The disaster case manager will look at what resources the family has to put into that. And they always must put in the money that FEMA has given them. FEMA requires that. So actually, they can get in trouble legally if they don't use the money in the proper way. And disaster case management helps people to spend that money correctly and not get into trouble. So we look at what they have, what they need to get to recovery, and then we try to provide and fund that gap. Now, the primary way that we fund that gap is through our volunteers, our construction volunteers, and all that come in and provide the labor. The some of the houses that you'll see today, since the beginning of this long-term recovery operation, from the tidal flooding of October 2021, we've built 10 new homes to replace homes that were damaged beyond a point at which we could repair. And we have built those 10 homes on average for $104,000.
Wow.
About 1,200 square feet, 1,100 to 1,200 square
Okay.
feet. And obviously, the only way we can do that is by our volunteer labor.
Yeah.
Those are simply materials costs. We do sometimes, some of the mechanicals we do hire out,
Sure.
plumbing,
Mhm.
electrical,
Yeah,
Yeah.
electrical, the
Yeah.
HVAC,
Yeah.
the HVAC, and
sprinklers.
the sprinkler system.
Mm.
Every new home
Yeah.
needs to have a sprinkler system now in Maryland.
Wow.
So we do contract that out, in part because we had an experience one time where we had a licensed electrician was in working with a crew 1 week. The next week, another licensed electrician came in and was working from a different code and spent the week redoing everything that had been done in
wow.
previous. So, so we just found that it's cost effective to do the
Yeah.
one of my favorite pictures is the one up on the wall
Hmm.
behind Cindy. That house there, the new foundation, the home was elevated by the contractor. Our volunteers came in and built the new foundation. And on January 9th, the house was set back down on that foundation. And that picture was taken on January 11th. That just shows water all around.
And you will notice it's a sunny day,
It's a sunny day, it's a blue sky day, it's all from
which makes it
tidal
even
flood,
crazier.
not from a storm.
So I get a call, the volunteers are completely, are we okay? What do we do? They were completely thrown off by the fact that water is rushing in and on a sunny day, well, it's normal, but
Yeah.
yeah, you might want to pack it up for the day.
So, and we have that picture digitally, so that if you all need to use it in
Mhm.
congregations, but I mean, that's probably one of the better pictures that explains why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So after Hurricane Sandy, long-term recovery committee was established. We had a long-term recovery staff. We worked with the county. Between the county and us, we built 54 new homes
Wow. Wow.
and 53 new homes. And following the long-term recovery, Kim stayed on. Kim was the construction manager during the Sandy response. And after sort of a continuation of the Sandy response, we were able to do a mitigation project and we elevated 11 homes.
Mm.
So there were a total of 64 homes that were either built new or elevated. And all of those homes were built at the same level, which is the level of what would be the 100-year floodplain
Mm-hmm.
plus 2 additional board feet. Okay, and so obviously the 100-year floodplain is not the same height everywhere in the community because of how high the land may be. So one of the first things that we do in construction is to get a surveyor in, and you'll look on some of these homes. I imagine they're still there. The surveyor will come in looking at the floodplain map and will determine on that spot on the map how high the threshold of the front door needs to be at the 100-year floodplain level, and puts a spike in the nearest telephone pole.
Wow.
And that's the mark that we work off of. And so we use that mark plus two additional board feet, and that's where the threshold goes in the new house. So that means that we have built foundations that have been as much as 9 feet high, some as little as 2 or 3 feet. depending on-
So during our time here, in the middle of it, FEMA remapped actually. So you'll see houses that are here that we did.
Yeah.
That were the code at that time.
Yeah.
But because of Sandy, FEMA, every time there is an event, FEMA will remap and they said, what, we didn't make them high enough. So then they came with another 4 feet, I think. And so they're significantly higher now. It hasn't been remapped since then, since 2015, but they did change on us in the middle
Do
of
they
the
have to
game.
be raised again?
No,
No.
but just, that's where the new level is where they would need to be.
So many of the folks that we have assisted in their recovery, have been elderly. Everyone has been poor. In the present elevation project, all of the families we're working with are below the poverty level. Every one of them. So many of the homeowners want ramps. We give them the choice of just steps or a ramp, and the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, prescribes that for every inch that you go up in height on a ramp, it must be 1 linear foot long. So a 9-foot foundation. Well, an 8-foot foundation, 8 foot to the threshold, that's 96 inches. And so the ramps are 90 feet, 96 feet long, plus every 25 feet, there must be a flat spot.
Yeah.
So that someone in a wheelchair assisting themselves is able to rest. So you have these enormously, and so one of our standing jokes around here is that the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Committee builds many fine-looking ramps
Yes.
to which, and some to which we attach home.
Oh,
So we were just about ready to actually disband the long-term recovery. It was the Somerset County Long-Term Recovery Committee when the tidal flooding of 21 hit. Our pro bono lawyer, who was the first chair of the Long-Term Recovery Committee back in 2012, just had never gotten around to it, which we were thankful. And so what we did was to revive the Somerset County Long-Term Recovery Committee, change its name to the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Committee, and then change the bylaws so that we can now move the Long-Term Recovery Committee anywhere we need to on the Eastern Shore. And the advantage of that is that we have an incorporated 501c3 entity that is in good standing with the state of Maryland,
yes.
ready to go the day after an event happens, and can start receiving funds. We've lost out on a lot of money because a lot of people are ready to give, but we've not been able to push that name out because we weren't a 501c3 yet. People aren't going to give to that if they can't get a deduction. So now we've set it up so anywhere we need to go with it, we can. And part of the change in the bylaws is to make sure that we can easily remove people who maybe have been serving in one area where the last disaster occurred, and now we can add new people very quickly so that the local community has board members and the local community is making decisions about their recovery.
Great.
Quick question. Does
Yeah.
VOAG, what does VOAG stand for?
VOAD stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. So National VOAD was the first entity. It began in 1970 after Hurricane Camille.
Mm.
And what happened was that many of the faith-based disaster organizations were running around in Texas, falling over top of one another, competing with one another. And somebody said, you know, we can do better than this. And so
Yeah, we can.
National VOAD was formed as a way to have a consolidated and coordinated response to disasters by the faith-based community and nonprofit community. That then led to the creation of VOADs in every state and territory of the United States. So there are 50, I've lost count, I think it's 56 state and territorial VOADs
Yeah.
in the United States. And it simply acts as the umbrella organization under which everybody comes,
Mhm,
has agreed to principles
mhm.
and means of working that we all agree to.
Yeah.
And it's a way for us to coordinate and to increase our capacity,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, Maryland VOAD is the largest disaster organization in the state of Maryland.
Mhm.
When you put together our 54 member organizations now. We have a three-tiered participation level in Maryland VOAD. One is our member organizations, which are the faith-based and nonprofit disaster organizations. Then there are our partners that have the status of partners, that are the governmental agencies, state, municipal, county. More than half of the county offices of emergency management are members of Maryland VOAD now.
Mhm.
And then the third category is affiliates, which are for-profit
Mm,
companies that want to participate in disaster response.
mhm, mhm.
And they also can be a part of Maryland VOAD now and to assist us. And so everything works in a coordinated way when something occurs. Typically, I will know that as chair because I work closely with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management.
Mhm.
We, you know, like last Thursday and Friday, we were talking constantly through the day
Mhm.
to update each other. Had I heard anything about stuff happening from storm, from Debbie coming up the coast? Did they know anything? And if they do, and it seems like there's a larger response that's needed, then we convene a coordinating call. Now it's a coordinating Zoom, and just let everybody know what the needs are and what may be needed. And we will also begin to have an idea about whether a long-term recovery response is needed.
Mhm.
If a long-term recovery response is needed, then that's a certain mechanism that we put in place. If it's simply a unmet needs situation,
Mhm.
then we respond in a little bit different way.
Mhm.
But basically look at what the needs are, get that word out to our members, and then they begin to tell us what capacity they have and how they will respond. The thing that happens over a period of time is that each group tends to have their own expertise.
Mhm.
And there are things that I can depend on certain groups.
Mhm.
So if you need muck out and or mold and mildew remediation, it's probably that's going to be headed by the Baptist Convention of Maryland and Delaware and Team Rubicon.
Mhm. Mhm.
The two of them will be working together to try and figure that out. And with creating that kind of system, if I have Lutheran volunteers who want to be a part of muck out or mold and mildew remediation, we don't then create our own Lutheran system. I simply send them to Ellen Udovich.
Yep.
And as I say, I take perfectly good Lutherans and make them good Baptists for a week. And work in their system. If a long-term recovery is necessary, then Lutheran disaster response that tends to be our expertise, and that's what we begin to do, is working processes within the community. You know, we did that here. with Chrisfield community. We also did that in the Wilmington area after Ida,
Mhm.
and had them I helped with that community to form a long-term recovery so that there is a
Mhm.
the 11th Street Bridge Community
Yes,
Long-Term Recovery Committee
yes,
that has been formed and is working
Yes.
and is responding, continuing to respond
Mhm.
to needs from Ida
Yes.
there.
And can you say a little bit about the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance specialty?
Their specialty has been primarily in construction.
Yeah.
And sending work crews in that supplement
Mhm.
where things are needed. In the National VOAD system and in the Maryland VOAD system, we kind of depend on Mennonite Disaster Service. So we have a
Yeah.
larger component.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, the bad news is if MDS isn't involved in your community, you have a big disaster, you're probably in trouble.
Mm.
If MDS is involved, then you're probably in pretty good shape because they're really the general contractors. They know, they have the system. I mean, they have the plans for how to build the house. The plans are designed for volunteer workers to be able to build those homes. They're not complicated.
Mhm.
They have the system that they've used for years and years.
Mhm.
And so if Mennonite Disaster Service is providing leadership, then what we do is feed
Mhm.
Lutheran work crews, Presbyterian work
Mhm.
crews into their system and coordinate with them.
Yeah.
To provide the expertise that is needed.
Mhm. And I'll just add real fast that one of the things our Presbyterian disaster assistance folks have focused on is trauma response. And so providing maybe a softer service after disaster and resources around dealing with trauma in the wake of a disaster, both for the leadership, leaders in the community leading after a traumatic experience, or for themselves as people who have experienced it as well. And so that's another place that we've sought to be experts among experts in responding to disaster.
The other thing that PDA does, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, is they will provide funding for staff,
Yes.
and that is critical. And I usually exemplify that by telling the story. During the Sandy response, I had a woman who called me and said, "I'd like to send $3,000 to you to help people recover in Christopher." I said, "Well, that'd be great. I appreciate that." And she says, "It all has to be used for the people's recovery. You have to use it to buy whatever it is that they need. You can't use it for other things." And I said, "Okay." And she says, "I'd like a report on how you spent the money when you get done." And I said, "Well, I can't do that."
Yeah.
She said, "Well, why can't you?" I said, "Because you just said I have to use the money for the people, which we will."
Mhm.
I said, "But you didn't give me any money to buy a print cartridge for the printer. You didn't give me any money to pay for the rent on the offices where we are, nor did you give me any money to pay a staff person to write this report for you."
Yeah.
She said, "I never thought about that."
Yeah.
I said, "Well," I said, "that's a helpful thing to think of." And I said, "So could we use 10% of your money for administrative?" "No, it has to all go to the people." I said, "Okay." I sent her a report anyhow. But anyhow, that, and that becomes so critical. Lutheran Disaster Response does that as well. So has the Disciples of Christ do that. And so we really depend on our national partners
Mhm.
to be able to get the money that is necessary to pay for staff. Because, if I didn't have money to pay Kim and Kim went away, then our whole operation here would stop.
Yeah.
we just wouldn't have an operation anymore, because there's gotta be somebody on the ground that coordinates this stuff. And, you know, MDS is clear, that's not their job.
Yeah.
You know, MDS will not work in a community where there has not been a long-term recovery
Mhm,
committee established and where disaster case management is happening.
mhm.
Because then they don't know whether or not they are providing the person with what they need, or if they're providing the person with more than what they need. And disaster case management is a way to keep fraud from happening,
Mhm,
but it's also a way to make sure that what the family actually needs, and sometimes they aren't aware that they,
mhm,
but the
mhm.
disaster case manager is.
Yeah.
And so that becomes critical.
That was the situation you were talking about as we were arriving, with the mobile home that has all these layers of need in order to become whole. And knowing that and knowing the steps that you have to take, could you tell that story again for everyone else?
Well, I was just sharing with our next home that we plan to elevate. The person had initially came to me for help with her roof leaking, which had nothing to do with flooding,
Yeah.
you know, but because I've been kind of planted here and I've learned different resources
Mhm,
to send different scenarios to. But then she got back with me and said, I mean, she was very happy that she would have qualified for the home repair program in the county, but there was this, why they couldn't help her.
mhm.
So she asked, well, what can I do? And I'm like, well, okay, so now maybe, you know, if we fix your floors, we elevate your home to keep, her biggest problem too was electrical. You know,
Ooh,
these homes have their junction boxes under the house.
Oh,
yeah,
It's the worst place in the world. So half her house, the electric isn't working.
yeah,
The other half, and you have that a lot in this community, the lights are blinking or they don't work half the time, and you can't go under there and belly slide to fix the electric for it to get wet
Yeah,
again. So
yeah.
it's going to allow her to get other help, us
Mhm.
lifting up her house, putting a viable foundation
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fixing her floor.
Yeah.
So it all kind of works together to
Yeah.
get them the help they need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hmm. Are we ready for a tour? What do you think? Anything else we need to know before we head out?
Well, I'm wondering, would you like to see more of this? camp?
Sure. Yeah, show us the
So
camp.
this was built by the US Army as a radar station. I think in 1953 or 54, maybe 52, or somewhere in there. And they built it, they opened it, and within 3 months they closed it because they figured they found out that building a radar station ground at sea level was not very practical. Wasn't helpful. And so then this building had been used in the community as a school, as a medical clinic, other things. And it had been dormant for almost 5 years in 2012 when those of us from the outside coming in became aware of this building. And the American Legion now owns it and made it available to us. Mennonites and Lutherans each put in about $20,000 to rehab the building. I can show you some pictures of some of the biggest black snakes I've ever seen as we began to rehab this place.
So I know they're hanging from the ceiling.
They were hanging from the ceiling.
But none today, none today.
Black snakes, there was absolutely no rodent problem. They were all gone. That's the advantage. And so it was an army installation. And so we had the barracks, you know, a place to sleep, there had a kitchen, a place to fix food, and then it had this room, which allowed us to have a place to eat and to meet and for people to have fellowship in the evening.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
So let's.
Yeah, so
let's
this
go.
is kind of a community area here.
So for anyone watching now or later, if you want to send a work group, there's a place. Woo,
Yeah.
woo.
I don't know how many have been in long-term recoveries or been to other communities, but as a work camp, this is sort of at the high echelon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a tent.
pretty,
Not
it's pretty
intense.
good.
Got a
The
roof.
only one that I've ever
AC.
known of that was better, after Sandy, somebody got hold of in New Jersey, got hold of it was either a Holiday Inn Express or
Oh.
something, and actually had hotel space, but
Wow.
beyond that, this is not bad as it goes.
Yeah.
So I think there's two men and women's rooms here with a shower.
Yeah.
There's then the next section, you'll see a couple more restrooms with shower.
So this ends up being kind of the lunch and breakfast area for
Yeah.
everyone. In the morning, the cooks will lay out, you know, a little buffet and they can get their cereal and and then lunch, and she'll also lay out
Mhm,
sandwich meats for them to have their
Yeah.
sandwiches for the day. The kitchen here is pretty well set up, well equipped.
Mhm.
You getting cobwebs?
Yep.
Yeah, I've been in this one, so I've cleared the cobweb. So as you can see, we got a little bit of everything you might possibly want to
Ah,
cook.
all set.
So then we even have a laundry area for here.
Nice.
Spiderwebs.
I believe it.
So they can do laundry if they want.
Nice, nice. Two stoves.
Determined by when we can get the permit to get the next house going. Okay. You know, we were waiting for funding for this next house. So we've got the funding we got from you all. We just got another $200,000 funding from the county commissioners.
That's great.
So we can put that in play, and then we're anticipating the additional money that you all have in the fall. So we're kind of looking at that. And then we have an appeal right now to all of the national BOAG member organizations. And to see what they might help contribute. Great.
Ooh.
So we'll go
Okay.
and see the bunk area. So we have a boys and girls restrooms up here with some showers. And all of this, of course, we fitted to make it work. It's our little office area.
Oh, very nice. Well done. Look at that.
Yeah. She's a great one going ahead of it.
Right on.
I'm more afraid of frogs than me. I'm like, but yeah.
You know, one of those pretty fun.
Oh,
We got a lot of those.
so then we have more references here.
All the boots, work boots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see what they all come in.
Yeah.
I've picture of it before.
There's a few more down this way.
Yeah, there are. I'm not gonna go any further. I'll stop here. One of the bunk rooms.
So yeah, we separate the boys and the girls.
Probably not. I
These are hot.
don't even know where that order is.
They are.
The piano came from either.
They what? They what?
They're high.
I was with PDA in Slidell. And
Look, there's a password,
there was a
Wi-Fi.
layer That was. Oh, here.
Oh, wow.
Another one.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
my.
had that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
No one's gonna hit their heads though on these
No.
bunks. Not gonna sit up in the middle of the night and concuss themselves. Wow. Wow. I'm not going down there. Do you see all those cobwebs, Anthony? You go for it. I'm gonna go this way. I've already cleared my share of cobwebs today. If you missed it at the beginning, the camp has been closed for the summer because it doesn't make sense to send people out in the hot summers in this area to do this really hard work. So they opened it specially so we could take a look and share it with all of you at home. Oh. Yeah. Here we go. We're gonna get into our cars here in a minute and do a tour of the area and actually see some of the houses that have been raised, as well as the other houses Phil was talking about that have been repaired or raised or completely rebuilt. Just Phil has said that standing in Crisfield and looking around, you can't look without seeing a house that has been touched in some way through the long-term disaster recovery process. And that's amazing, the impact on this community from people far and wide, by giving donations, monetary donations, by coming and working, and by telling the story, part of what we're trying to do in telling the story. So I'm going to pause my camera and I'm going to pause the recording while we're getting in the cars so you don't get sick. And then I'll turn it all back on when we start to drive. Okay, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back. There we go. So we are hitting the road to take a look at some of the houses that have been rebuilt, have been raised, and are on the list to be raised, which is one of the things that we have the joy and privilege to partner with, come alongside as we're doing our matching grant campaign to raise houses. 3 is our plan for the long run. So I'm going to turn my camera back around. There we go. And we're getting ready to leave the camp, which is, fenced in. Across the street is new construction. And there's water right there, marina, little marina space. Oh, the other car's getting ready, so we're not quite ready to roll. Almost. So Phil, you're the chair for the entire Maryland BOAD, which means this is not your not the only long-term recovery committee that you are resourcing.
Well, at the moment it is,
Oh, well, that's good for you.
but it's not the only one that we have.
Yeah. All right, here we go. As I said earlier, I apologize in advance. I will do everything I can to hold the camera steady. Here's the end of the road there.
Get on the phone? We can. Just call me.
And they'll be, yeah.
Kim will have some details.
Great.
Being involved day to day.
All right.
Got me?
Here we go.
Okay. Okay,
Perfect.
I'm listening.
Okay. So I figure first we'll go down here to Miss Miss Ruddy, Susie Ruddy.
Susie.
This is the house. Yeah. Up here on the right, and you're welcome to take pictures of this. Up here on the right is a home we built after Superstorm Sandy.
But it's not been raised or?
Well, no, that actually, it was the base flood elevation at that time.
Okay,
So it was only at about 4 feet.
okay.
And
We-
now, and she didn't get a ramp, but what's that, Pastor Phil?
I was just gonna say, these homes that we built after Sandy averaged 65,000.
Yeah.
Not 104.
Yeah, that's true. And then you can see a stark difference, in the basement elevation. This is a home, one of the recent 10 we have built here with the ramp. Okay, and it's substantially higher. Okay. And that's another example of a ramp that we,
Yeah.
built a house.
That is so.
And we do attach nice homes to the ramps.
And nice ramps to homes.
Cute.
But you
These are
see the
so cute.
difference
Now
in
they need to
elevation.
come up, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
this
darling.
house, or this road certainly floods. And you can tell a newer home, yeah. They're ready for anything, yeah.
Is that some of the new money that came in? And
I think that was after Superstorm Sandy,
what are you
actually.
pointing to, Jim? I'm
Oh, the
ready to
window.
take pictures.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, we'll kind of go around because now I want to swing back around and show you the house we recently elevated, the one that was in that picture. And so here on the left, this brown one is another example of a lower elevation we did after Sandy.
The one with the flag.
Yeah. All right.
See the pin in the,
Oh, so that
Where's
that
the pin
pin
in
right
the-
there.
that pin was
Oh, yeah, I
Was-
should have showed you that. I'll show you on the next.
Okay.
About that.
the lever
Perfect.
which.
At the time.
at
Yeah.
the time.
Wow.
Pastor Phil, I think we'll swing back around rather than me going around the block. So I want to go back down Windfall where we just came from.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. Let me go first.
So we'll be able to get a second glimpse of
There have been something.
this house that was raised.
Oh, yeah.
that we looked at.
True. It should be. They normally put it in the nearest telephone pole.
It's there on towards the bottom, Kim. You can see a
Oh,
little,
yeah.
you can see a little
Oh,
bit.
down there, okay. The rust, yeah.
See if I can- Yeah. That's what it was after Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, post this too.
Uh,
Doesn't miss an opportunity.
Cool enough back there.
The sweetest house.
I never seen.
Joel Ray Valley.
No, I think that's, it actually came along after Sandy.
Okay. That's for sale.
One of the benefits of an organization like Maryland Boad for a community like this, when I came into Crisfield in October of 2012,
Mm-hmm.
I was the only person in the county who had ever been involved in a long-term recovery. There wasn't
Wow.
another person who had that expertise
Yeah.
until MDS arrived.
Wow. Wow.
I wanted to show you, see that thing?
So nobody knows.
Oh, here.
So this is the first house to be opened.
Oh.
And you see the nail sticking out with the yellow or the orange flag or it had anyway. That is the first floor of this house.
Okay. I'm trying to find the keys under.
Just proves that we don't.
That's right.
Oh, that's okay, it's at the-
We help
Okay.
everybody.
Phew, that has gone up.
So, yeah, you can see the decking for the air conditioner unit.
Yeah.
All of that has now all, where it should be. It's all code now.
That's
Great.
great.
So part of what we have to do too is, if they are non-working fireplaces, or these older homes don't have fire.
We
Yeah.
put all the
So we're
utilities
facing
up
by
on it.
the taking a
Mhm.
chimney and built the foundation for a
That's
a
great.
chimney that doesn't even work anymore. It makes no sense. So we just go ahead and take it out.
Okay.
But so that house was the same level as all of these.
Okay.
And all of
This is a
water.
free.
So both of her neighbors have expressed interest to me in elevating, of course.
Uh-huh.
And they are on my list. I guess we'll go across here.
One of the other things to pay attention to. Chrisfield has, in the summer months, is a beautiful town with all of the crepe myrtles.
Yeah.
If you'll notice,
Oh,
you see them throughout the town, the purples, whites.
Red.
And they stay blooming all summer.
They do. They're so gorgeous.
This might hurt. Yeah, my water bottle. I'm not getting water.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Sure.
Yep, I should have kept it upright, but. So do people in this town, are any of them Fisher people?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that what they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that is kind of a dying trade
Yeah.
anymore. But no, there are still a little a pocket of working watermen. Let's call them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Interested in, water.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I have a public service.
Oh, is that right? From here?
He was 12, but if Sandy.
I don't know about that.
You know, we did the same education. Gave her- He sent it here today.
Oh.
Say
Oh
that
my
loud,
goodness.
like- So Phil was just saying that after Sandy, Hurricane Sandy, every or superstorm, whatever, every homeowner whose property was repaired was given
New homes.
new homes were built. They were given a crepe myrtle.
Ah. Here's another home we built that is on the lower standard of the hill. Get out of the way.
And,
And get out of that. Thank you. Perfect. Remember this family, Pastor Bill?
Yes.
Smart.
So, was that because of storms or what?
But according to Captain Simon, and wasn't that's the beginning,
Oh,
he had his whaleskins on, so
Chevy.
yeah.
oh, wow.
Snap trip.
Inside. They're actually old homes.
They're nicely.
I think because they've got new siding on them. Yeah. Every one of them are want to be elevated, and rightfully so. This is a street that takes water all the time. So every one of them are on my list. This white home here,
Yeah.
he seems a little off the ground. He takes in water all the time.
Now, what about industries like this baking company? What do they do to
They
protect themselves?
there's nothing they can do. They just, I think, they try to have resilient materials. Like, in other words, most of them have opted to take any wood floors out, subconcrete.
Okay.
That way, when the water comes, it just comes and goes. It's just like, yeah. Here's an example of a home that needs to be rebuilt. For whatever reason, have a hard time getting that homeowner to want to do it. Here's a home we built after Hurricane Sandy. And then right beside it, the tidal flooding. We recently built this home.
This one from Sandy.
okay,
The second one's the title flooding.
okay.
Okay.
So side by side.
20-mile long ramp.
That's right.
Yep,
Make it work.
yeah.
Stop and fast starts TV. Continue.
I'll share.
And this church, they get water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they do, but I'm just
do.
like, how did they?
Mhm.
There's a tea room.
Closed.
Your name is what?
Yeah, I do believe that church is closed now, due to
It has-
mold, really.
Yeah, yeah.
It has closed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're gonna go downtown here. This is like the main street of Chrisfield.
It does take.
Oh, it does take water, and you can see this is what happens with
Oh my.
they, yeah.
See another one.
Oh, there's plenty. I'll be able to show you plenty of those. There's
Oh,
so
look at
many.
this board. There's-
I know. And Chrisfield, there was a time that this was a very, well-to-do area. I mean, back in the,
You told me this. Yeah.
So
Baltimore. Yeah. Second
This,
to Baltimore, right?
we're on West Main Street here. And in the, I think it was around 1920, either a few years before or after, but it had the highest number of millionaires living on it per capita of any community in the United States.
Wow.
you can tell by the old homes, you know?
Well, if we go back down the street at some point, let me get a picture of that.
I certainly will.
Background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is another gorgeous one.
Is it really?
It sure is.
Oh my, look at those windows. Oh goodness.
This was the
And
original.
geez,
Dog
there's
cover
like
cover
nothing
house.
open. Oh.
So many,
And it's old McQuarrie's building was our
and then the
office.
first building became.
Do you see what's in it now, Pastor Phil?
Yeah. Hey, Kim, pull over and let this car go by. But that's the owner's son who rented to us. It's his business.
Okay.
Was here prior to seeing.
So
Okay, so it was Friday until Sandy.
Well,
No.
there were businesses in the building.
Okay,
They weren't the
Right.
I can't think of one that. At one
We'll
time, there
come
were
back.
5 hardware stores.
wow. Wow.
One of the things there's been a project to do here.
Yeah.
right after.
That's a
Sandy.
beautiful mural. I think or
And part of that is
Oh.
to lift up the
Oh.
African American history. and
Yeah.
significance and the-
yeah.
All floods right here, so they can't, nobody's
They can't do
doing anything. There was a subway here for the longest time, and they got tired of flooding.
Yeah, yeah.
Cause the water comes right from over there, you know,
Yeah.
wetland, and then there's the bay. It's comes right.
Is there anything they can build up or is there just too much waterfront?
Well, it's too much waterfront, but I think what it is, they built like what do you call that, Pastor Phil, like a seawall out
Yeah.
there. But the thing is, what's happening is Chrisfield's kind of sinking.
Okay.
And I can show you evidence of that on this one property I'm gonna take you to. Because it's predominantly built on clamshells.
No,
When we
no,
dig for,
Kim, that's wrong.
not clamshells,
No.
oyster shells.
Oyster shell.
There we go.
In fact, from, if everybody, this is the fire department.
Yeah.
Everything south of here has been built on oyster shells.
Yeah, which is so.
Not a firm foundation.
Thank you.
You doubt that, dig a foundation
Yeah.
and you just run into the oyster shell. But that's what they did. I mean, that was water at one time.
Mhm.
Federal government is
Yeah.
putting a bunch of money in south.
Yeah.
What about putting money into?
The federal government just.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
these
is
are
that
good examples of homes that are left,
Yeah.
you know, to flood and nature just takes them over.
Thank you.
It's not, earmarked necessarily for residential. Commercial, flood bait.
Yes, right, exactly. And which they're forgetting about the people, if you ask me. So here's the home we elevated after Hurricane Sandy. This is one of those typical homes that's sitting right on the ground. This one here.
Yeah.
Major repairs to the floors, took out chimneys.
Yeah.
Now she's sitting high and dry.
Nice.
Goodness.
Is that a commercial grade stove?
It sure is.
Well, all right.
It's a good place for it, huh?
That's it. Might want to do some. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, look here.
Okay. Oh, there. Okay. I didn't see that. That's right. You have a great profile there.
Yep, all of this is examples of happens when you do nothing. There's a lot of that.
This is a house here.
Pretty much every one of these we've repaired.
And they should have all been elevated.
Yeah, and I honestly can say I think I've been in every house in Christie at some point, you know.
What's the population?
2700,
say-
2700.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say. Three.
It may be a little bit less than that now. But within the limits of the city of Crisfield, there are 600 HUD-owned public housing units
Okay.
that
Keep it going
house,
up.
and that houses 1,300 people.
Wow.
So nearly half the
600,
population is living in public housing in the city of Crisfield.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Oops.
Kim,
So you see here,
So-
you see here where steps are new, like this house, we were working, I'll tell you the story, we were working over there. And it was just hurting my heart watching this house. The steps were falling down and she's got these children. Yeah,
Build-ups underneath it.
that's the only thing holding that house up. So we went and, I got the guys to fix her step for her, you know. This house here, we put around $25,000 in fixing this house after the flood.
Yeah.
This is the one that, Pastor Phil, Brethren,
Right there.
no,
Okay.
that one.
Okay.
And really, it should have been elevated or whatever, you know. I was gonna show you another home that we built, but also on my list, I believe this will be the next home that we wanna elevate. Also, get to it. McHugh. That should be elevated.
Yep.
I mean, obviously. Number 110, she is in dire need of doing something, but I think that I'm having the engineer look at this house. You see,
The one
I
right
can't
behind
really
us,
sit
or-
under and grab anything. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, trying to decide if it's going to be feasible to do it for her.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of these look like they're just gonna get washed away.
Yeah, they are. What's sad is when you know someone's living in it.
Yeah. Mhm.
And this is such a sweet little family up here. another one where after the flood, the guy came home, down here.
The
He's
first
got
or the
children, the one, the taller one. We've recently built that one. We tore his old home
Okay,
down.
yeah.
So he had two little boys. He couldn't sleep at night worrying about the electric under his
Oh my
house.
gosh.
Because the water just comes from the bay and moves here, and he's.
If you pull up a little.
Oh,
bit,
sure.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry to be right in your.
No, don't worry. I just wanted to forget me. No, I'm not.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that cat is chilling. Forget it. Oh, look at you.
So, Kim,
Yes, sir?
let me say to folks, if you look at this foundation, you can see how a home like this is designed to work.
Yeah.
The black doors at the bottom are actually floodgates, which
flood
allows water in.
Mhm.
So that you don't have any kind of static pressure from the outside pushing in on those walls.
Well,
And then
just as it lets it in, it lets it out.
it also then lets the water back out, and the vents at the top keep the mold and mildew from
Interesting.
forming.
But the point is, the water just doesn't stay there
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Or
Really,
beat
I
up against the foundation.
Oh.
And so
Did I get
code
that? Did I get
dictates, go right ahead. Code dictates that for us as well. Some areas, you're not gonna be able to have a foundation like that because they've decided that if the tide came in, the wave action would be damaging to the foundation, so they have to have what they call a breakaway foundation. So basically, it's on piers.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
You saw some of those,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So Kim,
And so,
Kim,
yeah,
why don't we head over to, they see the public housing, see the marina, then we could go down the neck.
yeah, we'll go visit Rosa and then
Okay,
see that house that we elevated and a few of the,
well, we want to go by and show them the house that their money is
Going
going to help.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, we're starting that one on Monday,
Wow.
we're a little late, but we were, we're reliant on volunteers, MDS volunteers, and they have been committed elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and
So-
part of it has been, the city owns the lot.
Mm.
Well, no, that's another house.
Oh, no, you're talking about the house we're about to build.
We're ready to
Showing
build
that too.
an 11th house, which will be actually the first house of phase 3, which will be used for, it'll be an affordable housing. So there will be the family that moves into that house will take out a mortgage and reimburse us
Mm.
for the cost of the house.
Okay.
And because we were able to build it so cheap, it becomes an affordable mortgage for them. And then we use the money that they reimburse us to build the next house.
Gotcha. That's a great model.
Somebody who's on the long-term recovery committee, Pastor Phil always comes with a new agenda. There's always a phase something new. Now to phase 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Phase 1 and phase 2 and then phase 3. I missed last meeting, so there could be a phase 4, but I don't know. I know.
There's no phase for it. And
Yeah.
none planned.
Yeah, not yet.
None planned, but
Well,
They all.
Library's up on still.
Well, this has been a dream of the mayor. And she came to us and said, is there a way to figure this out? To do this? And we found that after we built the first 10 homes that we had money left over through good financial management. But we also had another $25,000 gift that had not been expected.
Mm.
So that gave us the upfront money we needed to
Mhm.
build that next house.
Yeah, gotcha.
That had been the holdup, is how do you build the first house?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we've gone in a circle, but
Oh, but we'll get to see the
Necessary.
mural.
Yeah, now you get to see the mural.
Oh, very nice. I love that. And,
And part of what that does, part of what that lifts up is that there has been in this community a very sharp divide
Mm,
between black and white.
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And this is one of the first
Uptown,
projects that really lifts up the contribution of the African
and how
American
the phone
community.
pole here.
That's great.
So this home is another home after Hurricane Sandy. And again, it is on the lower end of what we have been doing. The interesting thing with this home, we were able to navigate through. She actually had a reverse mortgage. We didn't think we were going to be able to do it. We not only got the reverse mortgage, but we were able to capitalize on her flood insurance and file an ICC claim and get money towards building the new home. So, it really was, it was a hard, I think we almost didn't get this house built, right, Pastor Phil? Because we didn't
Right.
think we were going to be able to do it. But we were able to make it happen because it occurred to us too that the reverse mortgage, of course, it's in your best interest for us to do it. What, what's the problem? So we just pushed them. Another example of losing to the future. So this blue home is another home that is on our elevation list. Just constantly. In fact, her walls are separating from
oh my goodness.
floor.
Oh my.
I'm not real sure. It's kind of a tear down, really.
Whether it's gonna make it.
It's a tear down, honestly. And then here's another home that was built after Superstorm Sandy. Now here's one, if we wanted to see inside, maybe Miss Hazel, we could stop in if you wanted me to give her a call, Pastor Phil.
Yeah,
Or we could just show up on her. But this is
I don't
another.
want to just show up with her, but if you call her, when
Okay.
we call her and when we're coming back, if she's
Okay.
amenable, we can stop in.
Okay. And so to the left here, these two lots here are properties that the city of Chrisfield has donated to the long-term recovery.
Okay.
And in fact, this is the house we are using. We this was actually house number 10 here on the left. It's a little odd because it was such a small lot. But what we are doing, the lady that we are getting ready to elevate her home, we're letting her stay here.
Oh, nice.
She just didn't have any extra money to find temporary housing for herself. So,
Car coming up on your left, Kim.
thank you.
Yeah. I start to finish the elevator.
Well, depending on the amount of damage that we would be repairing, I would say at the most 3 months. At the most.
Wow.
Mhm. It doesn't take long.
I needed that contract.
So this is just an example here of a real shame. I know this house flooded during the tidal flood. The floors were gold.
Oh.
The lady had to move out.
Yeah.
Someone's put some lipstick and rouge on it. And they put it for sale, and now someone's bought it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
God.
So it's a matter
my
of time.
God.
It's going to be again.
Yeah,
You know, and there's no law for doing that.
Oh my.
You know.
Oh.
It's so sad.
Lipstick. But yeah.
I mean, it's pretty now, you know? So, you'll see across the street here now is public housing that Pastor
Okay.
Phil was speaking of. And this road floods all the time,
Oh my God.
all the time.
So these houses, these.
So the government, our government sinks money back into it every time. And these are the people that we want to lift up out of that and bring them into home ownership.
Yeah.
So here is the home of Rosa and her son Jaden that we
Mhm.
recently elevated.
All right.
And I will go knock and see if she will want to come out.
All right.
I'll leave the AC on for you guys. This is Rosa's home, Pastor Bill,
Yeah.
as you probably know. Let me move up. Realize you're in the middle of the road.
I keep trying to get my camera. There it is.
Look at that AC.
Oh well.
I'll go get it.
Ooh.
So for our folks on Zoom, I'm gonna stop recording while we talk with the homeowners. They don't know that we're on Zoom recording, so we're gonna pause the recording. But for those of you who are on right now, you will be able to listen to the conversation.
It might be
Call Kimberly Hopkins. So,
Yeah, so we just got to visit briefly with one of the families whose house was repaired and raised.
Oh, yeah, that's.
oh, Kimberly Hopkins will sell. I just get this reconnected to this.
I just wanted to get us turned around so we weren't going in circles again.
Well, I'm not gonna get turned around in that space.
Oh, yeah, you're not, are ya? I'll wait for you down here. What were you saying? You were so-
No kidding.
Hmm.
So again, this is all public housing,
This is all the public.
which all is ground level, which means it floods. We got a full moon in what, a week? Week and a half, we're off.
Yeah, Monday.
Is it
And Kim
Monday?
was saying every time that happens, the federal government comes in and does repairs.
They have a bigger budget than the long-term recovery does.
But you think about the trauma, because
Yeah.
flooding is traumatic, and if you are in a home that floods regularly, the loss
Regularly,
of possessions, the lack of trust
Yeah,
for your space that should be
Yep, yep.
a safe
exactly.
space. You know what that
Right,
does to
and
you
imagine if
mentally,
you're-
emotionally, physically.
yeah. And especially if you're a child,
Yeah.
you don't forget that.
No.
It's just like Rosa says, even now, every time it rains, he still, well, he feels a little better. So here's another home we built.
Mm.
Yeah, in here. And then I actually elevated this one
Oh,
out to Sandy. So
beautiful.
we have a cottage on the ground. And this was another example where these people had flood insurance and I was able to maximize the benefit of that flood insurance because
Yeah.
of repetitive flooding.
Kim, car on your left.
Thank you. Well, Chrisville got all busy all of a sudden, didn't it?
Another, and this truck coming.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and let him pass. And then, so because of that, learning what their neighbors were able to do, these people were able to use their flood insurance to elevate their house.
Right.
Because then they all became educated on the program, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, do you want me to go directly to that house or go down the net
Go
and
directly,
show everything
directly.
overlay
go directly to that house.
to that house? Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna stop the Zoom after we see the house that our initial 50,000 is starting the project of raising on Monday, because sooner or later my phone's gonna just run out of power. So I want to be able to sure we capture that before we sign off of this third Thursday opportunity. Sorry, making sure I'm not blocking the driver's view. That'd be bad.
Baptist church. Yeah.
So Amy just said
Nice.
this past school year, all the weather-related cancellations were due to flooding because the school is at ground level as well.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh my.
So I see some more nice homes
You
down
don't
here.
get snow days. You get
No,
flood days.
yeah, and just that ripple impact in the community.
Oh, look at that.
Now that was some sort of armory.
Oh, okay. Well, it sure was.
Mhm,
National Guard.
that's right.
I love this house right here. Look at these double porches.
Oh, sure. Love that. That's the era of days gone by. Okay. You know?
Mechanics.
Yeah. It's ready for anything there, right?
You guys cool enough back there?
Oh, is that a pretty little greenhouse?
That's not pretty.
Got water to come up this far?
I don't know, but what it is, you do have, so the bay is on that side, so you
Okay.
do have some wetland back over there, which
Uh-huh.
I'll take you there next. Because we did build some houses back there.
It's another close church.
Did you see what this here, Pastor Phil, on the left?
See that?
And that's something, this was another volunteer camp,
This was
after Hurricane.
Oh.
Church here.
Yeah, Methodist was cool. Mm.
There we go.
Okay.
Sand.
Yeah, for what they're selling it for. So I've already warned this lady, I'm gonna be picking her flowers. I hope she
Oh
knows
my
that.
goodness, that's beautiful. It is.
Uh-huh. So this is it.
Richfield, a few places. we can get
This
your
is
own
the next
park.
one we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No extra charge.
No extra.
What do you think?
Where you get your own note.
Oh. So, are we
Wanna
taking
see
a
that?
picture?
All right. So this is the house that Presbytery's first donation is set to start raising on Monday.
Young lady is disabled, and does need a ramp now, so we're gonna try to salvage what we can out of
Mm.
this ramp.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's gonna not be anywhere near what we need, but if we, at least we can reuse
Yeah.
the wood.
Yeah.
We may. Some of it might be a little far gone. But all we have to do, we've been instructed by the house lifter just to disconnect the ramp. For
Okay.
this step, it won't be in their way.
Mm-hmm.
We're tearing off the, carport and the back porch.
Okay.
To,
Yeah.
But I answered, I didn't think.
We're going out to see the marking for the height.
Thinking they may have put it in that pole.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Orange flag? Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. So about 5 feet.
So before the raising starts, they come out with the floodplain map and they mark with a spike and a flag on the closest pole the 100-year floodplain mark, and then they add 2 board feet. So you see how tall Tracy is, and I'm going to swing a bit, and you see where the house is now. So where that nail with the orange is, the house is going to be that plus 2 board feet higher when they finish this project. And it won't flood again, which will be amazing. And in raising this house, they'll put in a new foundation, they'll repair inside, and then she'll be able to get a federal grant to fix her roof. All of those things are going to happen because we're connected to the Eastern Shore Long-Term Recovery Committee through Amy Lawrence and the Menoken Presbyterian Church, because they asked us to reach out to Presbyterian disaster assistance after the super flooding event, because this presbytery has been blessed financially, because we believe in sharing those blessings, because we are a Matthew 25 Presbytery. We're going to change the life of the person who lives in this house and 2 other houses with your help. So, my friends, I'm going to prepare to sign off before my phone dies. We are in the middle of our Raising Houses matching grant campaign. We're seeking to match a second $50,000 donation with your matching grants to make a third $50,000. That would be 3 homes raised here in Crisfield, Maryland. 3 families whose lives have changed, who don't have to experience the trauma of flooding anymore, whose homes are repaired and made beautiful, which we all deserve. So thank you for all the ways you're praying for this process and this project, the ways you're contributing to it, and the ways that you are joining us in loving our neighbors as ourselves. I'm going to stop recording